da. Yes, I am back from my Canadian adventure where I briefly whisked over to Vancouver for a week and I had a bloody perler of a time. It was so good. And I'm going to be answering all the questions that you have asked me on Instagram because I was drip feeding my posts when I was on my way back in Australia, and you guys all thought I was there. The mystery of the internet. But I'm back in Australia and I will be answering the questions about my trip. So let's jump on in. Firstly, if you are new here, my name is Connor and on my channel, I like to talk about all things luxury. So if that's something you're into, I'd love it if you could hit the subscribe button and the bell button so you're notified when I bring out new videos. And if you're returning, welcome back to my channel. You can also hop on Instagram to follow me there, The Closet by Connor _, where I have outfits of the day and all different kinds of things. So if you're unaware, I went to Vancouver in Canada for a very small mini holiday, and I'll get into as to why that came about. But first and foremost, Vancouver, what an absolute beautiful city, which I expected it to be, but going there in person just reinforced that. Now, in the Northern Hemisphere, they're coming into their early spring, which I think when I was there, a lot of people saying, oh, it's quite uncommon to be having such beautiful days like this so early on. But I just got lucky and, mate, beautiful. All the flowers were flowering, all the leaves were like filling up on the trees, the sun was out, it was still cool, it was about 16, 17 degrees, but when you're in the sun, it was honestly beautiful. And just the landscape, the flora, the fauna, everything was so nice. And I've never been to the Northern Hemisphere before, and I've never been to Canada. And yeah, I got a good little bite-sized taste of it, and it was just absolutely top-notch. Highly recommend going if you've never been before. Now, my friend Zelina, she is a flight attendant for Qantas and I am on her staff travel. I've been on her staff travel for a few years now and I've never used it traveling internationally. I've only just used it domestically. And basically what that means is when you're on a staff travel ticket, you're essentially on standby until a seat is confirmed to you. Now, that sounds terrifying for some people like myself if you're type A, but look, I just grinned and bared it and I got through it. So basically, when you buy your ticket, you are on the flight with a standby ticket, meaning if the flight is full by normal paying people, you do not get on that flight. If a flight is cancelled before it and everyone gets bumped onto that flight, you get kicked off. And basically, as long as there's a spare seat on that flight in any of the classes, whether it be business, premium economy, normal economy, if there is a spare seat, you will get on the plane. The pros to that is that the tickets are very, very, very cheap, and you do your own kind of analysis with that. Now, I went to Vancouver because my friend had a 4-day slip in Vancouver from Sydney. So basically I flew down to Sydney and then flew to Vancouver so I left Sydney on a Saturday night, arrived in Vancouver on a Saturday night, so they're 17 hours behind us. The flight is 14 hours, so you roughly arrive, try work that out in your head, but you basically arrive the same time that you left. And then I stayed Saturday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, and then left Wednesday night. And I stayed in the hotel with her. You can request like a different room configuration, separate beds, yada, 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 and didn't have to pay for the accommodation. And then the flights are very, very cheap. So I think return flight, I got premium economy and I got a row to myself, which was basically like being in business class, and return was about $630 or something like that. So it was very, very cheap. And that's how you can justify the trauma of potentially not getting on the flight. Now, also because my friend was operating on that flight, it was kind of like nice because, you know, you're just kind of taken care of. So that's also a big benefit, and like you're not worrying about cancelling accommodation and transport to and from the airport, all of that, you just go with the person. So yeah, that's how I was able to type A my brain into being type B. But honestly, it all went fine. And you can check, you know, kind of like leading up to it, how like the flight loads are looking. Like I can actually check to see if the tickets are like selling out or if they're not, or if there's free seats. So you can kind of make the call before you go. Obviously, if something unprecedented happens on the day, well, that's just bad luck. But yeah, so I made it work, and honestly, no regrets. So whilst I was in Vancouver, we did a few different things, and my friend, she's really good at like planning and booking stuff, which is great. I'm happy to go along for the ride. But we ate out, we went to restaurants, we did a lot of walking, we went to all of the parks, we went to, is it Stanley Park? We went to Granville Island, and then we also stayed a night in Whistler, which I think is like the closest kind of snow resort mountain place to Vancouver. Correct me if I'm wrong. But we stayed a night there, and then we came back, and obviously we came back. And yeah, I can't remember everything off the top of my head now that what we did, even though it was such a short amount of time. But highly recommend Whistler. So we stayed at the Fairmont Chateau, which was very, very beautiful. It was very, like, it reminds me of something from like a Hallmark American movie, or just a North American movie in general. And yeah, it was beautiful. And the snow on like the ground obviously wasn't there because it was spring, but you could see all the snow on the mountains. And there were still people going up there and skiing because obviously it was still snow up there. That hotel, highly recommend. Apparently it's like the #1 resort in Canada or something like that. Some sort of #1 place to go. But yeah, I can see it in the peak season being absolutely just packed. So if you've stayed there, let me know. We can be hotel twin buddies. I also had the pleasure of catching up with Amy from the YouTube channel Fashionably Amy. I'll have that link down below. Amy and I went for coffee, we talked for ages, and it was great to meet in person. I vaguely remember when I was walking up to her where we were meeting, she was like, "Oh my god, you're so tall." And Amy is tiny, like we were like the BFG basically. But it was so good to meet her. We did briefly go into Hermes as well for a little shindig, and that store was pumping. Or I think it's a 2-story store. And there was people everywhere, and the street was like really quiet, but in there, mate, it was going off. So yes, we had a look in there, and yeah. Now in Vancouver, it had this kind of, I don't know how I can really explain it, but just this feeling of like familiarity, and I'm not sure if that's because it's similar to Australia, I guess, with some things. So when I was over there, it kind of didn't feel like you were in a different country. But then it kind of did at the same time. It felt like familiar but different. So I kept having to remind myself, oh, I'm actually not in like Melbourne or Sydney or just a different city to where I normally live. I'm in a different country, in a different continent, and all of that. So yeah, it was an interesting feeling. There is a lot of Aussies in Vancouver. They are everywhere. We were even sitting out for dinner, and there was like me and Zelina, and then a couple next door, lots of couples next to us who were Aussie, and then another table of like 4 people that were Aussie. There was a conference apparently going on because one of my clients bought something from me, and she said, "Oh, can you post it next week when I'm back from overseas?" And the day I was going to Canada, I was like, "Oh, where are you?" And she goes, "I'm in Canada." And I said, "Well, whereabouts in Canada?" And she's like, "I'm in Vancouver." I was like, funny, I'm actually on my way to Vancouver. So I physically met up with her and delivered the item. So if you're watching this, you know exactly who you are, and I hope you like your new Louis Vuitton. But that was nice to do that. International business. But there are a lot of Australians in Canada. So you're kind of, at first you're like, oh my god, that person's Aussie, like you can hear the accent straight away. And then over time I was just like, okay, well at this point there's just more Aussies here than bloody Canadians. So that has a lot to do with it, I guess, as well. Canadians, I was surprised that they, I'm not sure, again, this was an observation, not a criticism, and I'm not sure if this is Vancouver specific or just Canada in general specific, but I've known Canadians in Australia, and there's always been a very like outgoing kind of nature, and I found over there everyone was very friendly, very polite, but it was very like speak when spoken to, which surprised me. Or like, just, you know, if you're out for dinner and the waiter's asking you questions, it's very much like, oh, where are you from? I'm from Australia. Okay. Like, it just ends there. And I was like, oh. So I that was just not what I was expecting. I thought it would be a bit more, I don't know, just more outgoing. Or if you walk into a shop, like, no one like greets you. It's only like if you ask for something, people are friendly and they'll help and everything like that. But it's very much like just that small talk aspect that I'm used to in Australia surprised me. But then again, it kind of annoys you when you hear, because you're like, oh my God, I don't want to go through all the small talk. So maybe because I was in holiday mode and I was happy to do all the small talk, but I guess maybe I do like that. Also, the currency in Canadian dollars is very similar to Aussie dollars, but the tax isn't included, so you have to add in the tax. I think in like British Columbia, it's like 13 or 14%, something like that. So that's something to keep in mind. And also the tipping. The tipping always throws me because we don't tip in Australia. It's very rare that you will tip. But in Canada, it's like you're like ordering a coffee just at the counter and they ask, like the FPOS machine is like requesting a tip. And I asked Amy, I said, like, what's the norm? Like, do you tip? Like, do you only do it if you're like at a restaurant? Like, what's the kind of law of the land? Because I obviously want to make sure I'm doing the right thing. And she said that, yeah, like you tip just everywhere. So that's what you got to do. I tipped 20%. I feel like that was very, very, very generous, because some people said tipping like 15 or 18%. I'm not sure, but when in Canada, you do what the Canadians do. So I always made sure I tipped everyone, but that's just something to keep in mind when you're ordering like food, all of that stuff, if you're not from a country that tips. So that's a tip for you. Another one that is might seem incredibly obvious, but in Canada, they use the metric system like we do in Australia, which is great, but they drive on the same side of the road as basically everywhere else in the world but us in England. So they drive on the left-hand side of the road, whereas, no, they drive on the right-hand side and we drive on the left-hand side. So it's so funny whenever I go to cross the road that you like literally look both ways and then you get confused. The roads in Vancouver are very, very wide, which is great, but you get even more confused. So you're like, wait, is that car? I don't know. Basically, it was just a survival not to get hit by a car, because just my brain is wired to think the complete opposite way. The other thing is, you know, like the revolving doors like that you walk into in a hotel, they also go in the opposite direction. I have one in my office at work that like I walk into. So again, I think ours go clockwise. Yeah, ours go clockwise, and in Canada they go anti-clockwise. So literally nearly got cleaned up every time I'd walk in, and then I'd get scared. And they're not moving, like they only start moving as you're about to walk into it, like one of those energy saving things. So look, I'm sure they got a great laugh watching me attempt to go into like one of those like rotating doors, but that was another thing. What else? So, oh yeah, the air in Canada, guys, you need to bottle that up. As soon as I walked out of the airport and like started breathing, I was like, wow, the air here is fresh. I don't know why it's different, but it feels different. It feels better. It feels cleaner. It feels, I don't know, just lighter, cooler. I'm not too sure, but you guys have some very nice air. And like, I live in Australia. We have probably just as good quality air as you do up in the Northern Hemisphere, but I like your air a lot better, and I would breathe that in any day of the week. It was good air, okay? Next, the other thing I absolutely fell in love with was all of the trees and all of the like the landscaping. It was just so different to what we have here. I do not, like if somebody asked me to go on a hike in Australia, I'd be like, hell no. But if someone asked me to go on a hike in Canada, I would definitely do it. Just all of the, I guess the European or the Northern Hemisphere, just flora is so different to what we have here. I personally think it looks a lot prettier over there, just with like the maple trees and all the pine trees and how the snow sits on it. I don't know, I just found it to be very beautiful. Obviously you guys have bears there, so you know, if you're out hiking, you got to look out for the bears. We also have deadly things here too. Ours are like smaller but more deadly, whereas yours are bigger but more of like a physical threat. Ours are more of like a poisonous threat. So it's like literally pick your poison. But like the idea of maybe, you know, getting mauled to death by a bear just seems a lot more appealing than getting bitten by a snake. So I liked all of that. When we were going up to Whistler, that is one of the most beautiful drives you could ever do. We took the shuttle bus, like there's like heaps of different ones you can take. It goes for about an hour and a half. It's not like, I don't know if you've ever gone to like a mountain in like Melbourne, like Mount Buller or something like that. Going up that mountain, you want to die because it's so, like, if you get car sick, you'll feel it in that because it's like literally going up there. Whereas like going up to Whistler, it's not bendy and windy like that, but the views, I'll put some videos in, obviously, like incredible, beautiful, and there's like massive bodies of water, and then there's like islands, so it's like seeing so much water go on for so long, and then there's like land just behind it. I don't know, it's just so pretty, and I definitely prefer all of the visuals there. Maybe I'm just a North American at heart. I love the winter, I love the cool, so I don't know, Canada, you've stolen my heart. Now, would I go to Vancouver again? Absolutely. I feel like if you're wanting to go to Canada, the route that we took was the best way in terms of it felt very easy. I didn't feel like I was going on some long haul international flight. Sydney to Vancouver, a direct flight with Qantas anyways, that was 14 hours. I think it maybe was even a little bit less. And that was a very easy flight. I did not feel like death getting off that flight. Next time I would go to Vancouver, I would probably stay a night, and then I would go to like Toronto or Ontario or one of those places, and see like more of Canada. I think like the further east that you go, it gets a lot colder because it's more inland and it's closer to like the Arctic air and all of that stuff, so that would be a very different experience because it would be cold, more cold, but I love the cold, even though it would be like in the negatives. So I guess it all depends on the time you'd go. You'd probably have to research a lot, speak to Canadians, and that's what you guys are for, because you guys have so much information on Instagram. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like if someone wanted to come to Australia, I'd be like, don't come in December unless you want to combust. The other thing is that I notice is your sun, and this is obviously just a Northern Hemisphere, non-Australian specific thing, is your sun, guys. I forgot to bring my sunscreen stupidly, which I always bring, and I forgot to bring it. And I was in the sun, especially on the first day, full sun, and it was like beaming on my face, and I was just like, oh my god, I'm going to burn. Like, if I was in that same kind of location in Australia for 10 minutes, I would all be burnt up here. Yeah, look, not one burn. Obviously there's still UV and all of that, but yeah, the sun is a lot gentler up there, so that's a bonus. Our sun is bloody brutal. Like, if you go out to get the mail in like the peak of summer, you will like combust and burn. So yeah, that was a nice little surprise. Yeah. I'm rambling at this point, but if you guys have any other questions, or if you're thinking about going there, you want some, I don't know, whatever I could try and offer. I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but, you know, reach out to me on Instagram or let me know in the comments down below. Any recommendations as well for next time are always welcome. But yeah, I am definitely in love with Canada. It was a beautiful place to visit. I want to explore more of it. And yeah, I can't wait. Thank you so much for watching. I'd love it if you could give this video the thumbs up and consider subscribing if you have not already. Hop onto Instagram as well and follow my account, The Closet by Connor _. You'll see all of my little outfit of the day pics from my Vancouver trip there. Thanks guys, and I'll see you all very shortly in my next video.